Hello, hello. This is the My Artifact episode number 3353. Today's date is 7th of March 2025. It's been almost like night at 10:15 p.m. Okay, what exactly happened today? Nothing really. Yeah, just a usual day. Regarding about design, yesterday I did only one. Okay, uh, like usually I decided to upload two designs, but I don't know. Yeah, like basically this thing now. I wanted to say so many things regarding about what is actually happened in my life and stuff like that, or every day, but it's like nothing really has any kind of like a stuff to say. But really, kind of like a some very common day. So I'm really excited about asking questions and giving them answer. Alright, yeah. So we just directly jump into the question. Okay, yeah, let's go. Let's do this. Okay, question is, what role does intuition play in great discovery and work of art? Okay, that's a really good question. Okay. Okay, first of all, where is this question came from? Okay, couple of week ago, I was actually watching the Demons of Leonardo. It's a web series based on Leonardo, Da Vinci Leonardo. Okay. If you don't really know who is that person, the person who draw the Mona Lisa, the world famous painting, and he is not just a painter; he is a master of multiple things. He is like a great in everything. Whatever. So while I was watching that particular show, I was bitterly influenced by the thought process of Leonardo, and I wanted to think like him. So I went to the chat GPT and asked that ki suggest me such a question so that I would think Leonardo. So this is one of those questions. Now question is, what role does intuition play in great discovery and work of art? Okay, yeah. Okay, so first of all, let's just understand what is actually the intuition. Okay, intuition means like that ki how do I supposed to say? Um, okay, um, it's a kind of like a some feeling that you know without knowing, like gut feeling. Yeah, gut feeling. Yeah, like have you ever experienced that a kind of like a gut feeling that you could do those things? Okay, yeah. Example ki how do I supposed to give the example? It's a very common example, but still is this thing that ki like usually you do your work. Okay, example is this thing that ki I am kind of like a graphic designer. Okay, yeah. So usually for me, when I see some sort of graphics, I realize that ki, yeah, it's kind of like a something very hard, or it's kind of like a something very small, okay, or kind of like a something very easy. Okay. When I look some sort of design, I figure it out that ki, that design is really not that much difficult to execute. So I have really gut feeling regarding about that ki I could execute that design without any hesitation at all. Nothing really at all. Just look at the design and get some sort of inspiration. And I think that I could do this thing, and I just did it. Okay, yeah. It just kind of like a something that na ki I have so much experience regarding about Photoshop and graphic designing. So it's kind of like a something very easy for me to kind of like understand that I could do that thing. Okay, yeah. Same thing happened with the photography too. Like if I wanted to take some sort of photo, I have some sort of ideas. I seen some sort of subject, so I try to take that particular creative photo that I want to take, and I took that photo. Okay, yeah. It's like that, na. Ki usually that gut feeling I have, or like you also have regarding about your work and things like that. It's kind of like something comes from the experience. I'm giving you another example. Is that ki local bus driver? Okay, yeah. Like, have you seen the roads on India is like really terrible? Okay, yeah. Like basically, is this thing na ki we don't really have any kind of like a something rules and nothing really at all. Like people drive the car very recklessly, and basically driving a car in India is like, wow. Like a really like, I don't know who could do that thing, but like it's not really that hard, but it's like it's really tough. Like basically I'm talking about kind of like a something like a comparison between the US and Europe. They have very standard definition regarding about how do we supposed to drive the car. They have to follow the lanes and everything, but in India it's like mess right now. But in this particular situation, the people who are actually driving the bus, or like a take a bus, okay, yeah, like a bus is a kind of like a very long vehicle, okay, yeah, turning radius is also really long. So in that particular situation, a driver should supposed to be a very experienced person, okay, yeah, and those driver are really experienced person. Like basically is this thing na, ki if I drive a kind of like a something like a car which is like a very like a small car, okay, yeah, I was kind of like a something how little bit experience that ki should I supposed to be like a went through this way that I could kind of like a pass my car or something like that. Like I was kind of like a bit really hesitate while I was kind of like a something that ki should I supposed to take turn or not, or will I able to take the turn or not, okay, yeah. But as a kind of like a some experienced driver, a bus driver who is like a, he understand about everything regarding about how do he supposed to kind of like a simply drive the particular bus and where it should supposed to be take a turn and not, he was kind of like a doing this thing very easily. For me it's a kind of like a something very hard. Why? Because of that ki I didn't really have that much experience, so I didn't really have that much gut feelings, so that's why I have little bit doubt in myself, and that's why I couldn't do that thing, okay, yeah. But bus driver, he has a kind of like a lot more experience in this thing. He has a kind of like a somebody so much gut feeling that he could do that thing. He didn't really have zero doubt, okay, yeah, he knows that he could do that thing and he did it. So what I'm trying to tell you is this thing that is called kind of like a something a gut feeling that we know we could do that thing, okay, yeah. Like a basically is this thing that a pilot could kind of like a somebody pilot the entire plane, and he has a kind of like a somebody gut feeling that he could do that thing. If like a basically the random person could kind of like a hand over the entire plane towards me, then I won't be able to do that. I was kind of like a bit really confused by the thousands of buttons over there, and I might not really sure what the fuck was that. Okay, so this is what kind of like a somebody is this thing. A gut feeling is usually came from the knowledge and experience, okay, yeah. When you have that particular thing, you will get kind of like a somebody a gut feeling, okay, yeah. Okay, so this is what kind of like a something a gut feeling that you have regarding about your work. Means like that key, right now I'm graphic designer, so I have kind of like a gut feeling regarding about graphic designing, or a kind of like a something a Photoshop, or kind of like a, yeah, a bus driver who has a gut feeling regarding about his driving skills. He knows that he could do that and he could do that, okay. But what about when you have a gut feeling regarding about others? Others means like a example is this thing that ki India Pakistan match, okay, yeah, and you have a gut feeling regarding about that ki the Virat Kohli will kind of like a do the century in this particular match. You just have kind of like a something gut feeling regarding about Virat Kohli that he could kind of like a something execute century, but he did not, okay, yeah. Then what exactly is this thing? Like how that kind of like a something gut feeling went fail is also because of that ki we actually kind of like a somebody have a gut feeling regarding about some sort of people, but probably is this thing na ki we won't be able to control other people. Yeah, we could able to control our action, our body, but we won't be able to control other people, okay, yeah. So that's why it's kind of like a something very difficult in that particular situation, that you have a kind of like something gut feeling that Virat Kohli will cross the century, but he did not. So what is that like why do I have that particular gut feeling? Like if that gut feeling went failure, then then why should I supposed to be called as a gut feeling? Like why? Well, okay, as I mentioned earlier, gut feeling is actually came from experience and information or knowledge, right? Yeah, like information and experience that we have, we kind of like a something say that we have a gut feeling. Regarding about Virat Kohli, Virat Kohli is usually kind of like a something, when he took the bat, he kind of like a meant to be like a cross the century, like his performance is actually always top notch, and he's kind of like a fitness level and everything is really great. So basically is this thing, the people are kind of like a somebody assume that ki Virat Kohli will kind of like a somebody play really outperform and he will cross the century. Okay, yeah, it's kind of like a simply belief that they have, the people that they have, that ki Virat Kohli will cross the century. Okay, so this is what it is. It's kind of like a something, a thought process, a belief that this person could do that, and when that belief is too much, then that too much belief it convert into the gut feeling, and that gut feeling we could say that ki yeah, I have a gut feeling that Virat Kohli will kind of like a something cross the century. Okay, yeah. So do you understand what is actually the gut feeling? Is also kind of like a something intuition. Okay, yeah. Intuition is a kind of like a something word, is also equivalent to the gut feeling, but intuition is a kind of like a something word that we don't really use that much often. Okay, yeah. It's a kind of like a something in a scientific words or I don't know. Yeah, like basically the synonyms of gut feeling and intuition are same, but usually we usually in normal language we use gut feeling a lot. Okay, yeah. Now what I'm trying to tell you is this thing. The question was that how does intuition or gut feeling is kind of like a play a really important role in a great discovery or world of arts. Okay, so what is at least this thing? Okay, so do you understand intuition? Okay, yeah. Intuition, gut feeling are the same, like I'm gonna say. Okay, yeah. Okay, so how does it kind of like a somebody help to discover something? Okay, that's really good thing. Okay, yeah. um okay, let's give the example. Okay, yeah, so that I would simplify this thing very much properly. Okay, yeah. So in your classroom there is a person who is a topper. Okay, yeah. At 5th standard he crossed 97 percentage, at 6th standard 97, 7th standard 98 percentage, 8th standard 99 percentage, at 10th standard like basically at the like basically these are kind of like a something score he did it from the last 5 year, and he's really topper. Okay, yeah, like he's really smart, he's like a really great and everything. Okay, yeah. So how like can you assume that how much percentage that he will get at the 10th standard? Most of the properly say it would be almost like a 97 to 98%. Okay, yeah, or maybe 100%, because he was that smart, because at the 9th standard he scored almost like a 99%. So probably he would be kind of like a something take 97 to 98%. Okay, or maybe like a 95 to, yeah, like he is kind of like a something A plus guy. Okay, so this is what kind of like a something we believe that this person could score 99 or 97% or more than 95% in the 10th standard. Okay, yeah, this is kind of like a some gut feeling or intuition. Okay, yeah, and that kind of like a something help us to we believe that this would happen and this happened. Now this is kind of like a some very small example to understand the gut feeling and intuition. Okay, yeah. Now I am kind of like a somebody talking about some certain scientific stuff. Okay, yeah. When the like Newton is actually sit on the sit beside like a beneath the apple tree, an apple is actually fall on his head. When this thing is actually happened, Newton is actually started thinking about that ki why that apple is actually kind of like a fall on my head, what kind of like a something force is actually attracted to the apple and things like that. He was actually figure it out that he why does kind of like a something everything is come on the surface, like a what is exactly stuff is kind of like attracting. This is kind of like something very difficult, and he kind of like somebody realized that he there is some certain force is kind of like simply attracting some sort of object to the surface. Okay, yeah. And that force kind of like a simply gravity. Okay, yeah. Now he has a kind of like a simply intuition, a kind of like a simply gut feeling that there is some sort of force is kind of like attracting to kind of like a something a body or some sort of object. Okay, yeah. Like a beside mass and beside the weight of that particular object, there is also kind of like a some certain force is actually attracting towards that particular object to the surface. So he has that kind of like a simply intuition, a gut feeling, but he don't really have any kind of like a simply a practical evidence that this is kind of like a something happened because of this force. So he was kind of like a calculating stuff, this stuff and that stuff. He did multiple experiment, and after all those experiment and everything, he kind of like a something invented a gravity. Okay, yeah. So this is what kind of like a simply intuition is actually help to kind of like a simply believe in his craft, and once you start believe and try to figure it out, we have kind of like a something invented the gravity. Okay, yeah. So this is what kind of like a something intuition is kind of like a something help us to invent some sort of thing. Okay, yeah. I was actually bitterly resonate with the very scientific discovery, so I'm gonna talk about some sort of scientific stuff. Okay, yeah. And as also existing, this question is also represent by the scientific discoveries. So let's go through that thing. Okay, yeah. Uh, let's talk another example. Einstein. Okay, yeah. So Einstein is actually invented so many things. Okay, yeah. Like um, theory of relativity. There is a one thing that I wanted to mention. Okay, yeah, which is kind of like a something very incredible invention. Okay, yeah. So before the Einstein, okay, usually we have a two medium. Okay, yeah, a time and space. Okay, what is exactly time and space? Okay, yeah. Let me clarify this thing. Okay, yeah. So time means like that ki if I am kind of like a something person who is going from one place to another place. So time required to me to went from one place to another place, that is called a time. Okay, yeah. And the space means like that the distance I travel from one place to another place. Okay, yeah. So when I went like a basically is this thing that ki example, I wanted to meet you at some certain place. Okay, I wanted to meet you. Okay, yeah. Like example is a thing, there is a boy, there is a girl. Okay, yeah. And girls say to boys, to that particular guy that ki I wanted to meet you. Okay, yeah. That boy became really happy, but he don't really know where she will gonna meet me or what time she will gonna meet me. So basically is this thing, if that particular boy and if that particular girl has to be meet, they really require two information, a space and time. Okay, like a when we should supposed to be meet and where we should supposed to be meet. These are kind of like a two things which are really essential to kind of like a something things happen a met. Okay, yeah. This is also kind of like a something very essential to for like these are kind of like a two things. Okay, yeah. But in day to day life, okay, we are kind of like associate these word differently. Okay, yeah. Like basically is this thing, my school is there. Okay, yeah. Like basically is this thing, my school is kind of like a somewhat there at somewhere kind of like a somebody location. Okay, yeah. So basically in this particular sentence, they only associate a space, means like that where is my school is there. There is kind of like a represent a space, but it not represent time. Okay, yeah. If I'm gonna say my school is start at 11 a.m. So basically in that particular sentence, 11 a.m. represent time, it not represent space. So in our day-to-day life, time and space are kind of like a two different thing. Okay, yeah, there are two different thing. Okay, yeah. But if we wanted to kind of like execute some sort of thing, we really required a two things together. Okay, yeah. If you still not understand this kind of like a some phenomenon, okay, yeah, is that thing ki the boy girl, that example that I mentioned earlier, okay, which is also represent a kind of like a simply space and time. Okay, yeah. But basically is this thing na ki this is what kind of like a simply normal example that I mentioned. Okay, yeah. In when you went to the space, things get kind of like a something very different. Okay, different means like that, very like very very different. Okay, why different? Okay, why different? Okay, yeah. uh okay, it's a really hard to kind of like explain with very scientific research, but I didn't really did any kind of like assembly research, nothing really at all. This is kind of like assembly information that I have, and it's also a bit really raw, so I'm not really sure is it kind of like assembly right or wrong. Okay, yeah, might be almost like a 70-80% right, 20% might be I'm kind of like assembly wrong, which is I don't know. Yeah, but I'm just trying to telling you about this thing. Okay, yeah, whatever it is. Okay. um okay, I'm gonna ask one simple question. Okay, so light from sun, uh, how much time it required to reach to the earth? Okay, yeah, like if there is a sun, how much light? Yeah, like basically 8 minute 20 second. Okay, yeah, like this is kind of like a something we knew that. Okay, yeah, we actually studied that ki light takes almost like a 8 minute 20 second to reach to the earth's surface from the sun. Okay, yeah. So what is exactly is this thing? What exactly is that? Okay. Okay, you have to do example, you have to do experiment that you just kind of like at your home and you just press the button, light is turn on. Okay, yeah. So suddenly you press the button, light is turn on. Like it's a kind of like a simply very 0 second delay. Okay, yeah, like basically you just press the button and you don't really wait. It happens so instantly that it just like a fraction of second, right? Yeah. Why this thing is actually happened very fraction of second? It has to be happen very fraction of second. Yeah, like we actually expected this thing should supposed to be happen in the fraction of second. It happened. Yeah, but let me tell you one thing, na. Like why? Like I should supposed to be know why. Okay, why is this thing? It means like the distance between the switch and bulb is very less. Might be couple of feet. Okay, 2 feet, 3 feet, 4 feet. Chalo, 10 feet. Okay, yeah, or maybe like a 1 meter or 2 meter. Let's say 10 meter. Okay, maybe like 100 meter. Okay, things happen really fast. Okay, or maybe like just say example as a 1 kilometer. Like you have a switch, and after the 1 kilometer, light is turn on. But you press the switch, it's on directly. It's just like 0 second delay. Okay, yeah, this is what kind of like a something happened very fast. Okay, yeah, because distance is kind of like a very small. Okay, yeah, 2 feet, 3 feet, 10 feet, 10 meter, 10 kilometer, it's kind of like a something very fast. The signal that kind of like a going from switch to the current is actually happened through light speed, which is so fast that you won't be able to cope up with the delay, and it happened like instantaneously. Okay, yeah. um so this is what kind of like a something is this thing. So but in the space, when you when you went to the space out of the out of like when you went to the space, things are might be different. Okay, yeah, because in that particular situation, distance is far away. How much far away? Okay, yeah. Okay, so one of the closest object around the earth is moon, right? Yeah. So how like just imagine how much far away from moon to earth, like how much distance is actually away from earth to moon. Can you imagine? Just imagine how much distance. Like you think might be like a couple of hundred. Yeah, it's not really that, like a couple of thousand kilometers, that's it. Okay, yeah, you are completely wrong. Okay, like basically the distance between from earth to moon, it is so vast that you could put entire planet like a basically Venus, Mercury, Mars, Jupiter, Neptune, Pluto, Uranus, every planet you could align. Still you have some certain space to fill literally that much amount of distance that we have. Like basically moon is a kind of like a only one of the closest planet or closest kind of like a some object in our earth, but it is so far away that it kind of like a something, yeah. So what do you mean by that? Ki when the distance is too much, then light takes time to reach. Okay, lights take time to reach. It's like a basically, let's combine this example with the previous example. Okay, yeah. Like basically you have a switch. The kind of like a light that you are situated is on the moon. Is on the moon. Okay, yeah. So you press the button, it will take almost like a maybe a couple of seconds. I'm not really sure how much time. Okay, yeah, let me google it na. Wait, let me google it. How much time required to from earth to moon? Okay, 1.3 seconds. Okay, yeah, 1.3 seconds. So basically it's this thing that key, if you put a kind of like a assembly switch in here and the light in on the moon, then you press the button, it will take 1.3 second to turn on the light over there. Okay, yeah. But let me tell you one thing. Okay, yeah. I'm talking about the switch. Okay, yeah. It's not kind of like a some light photon. Okay, yeah. A switch means kind of like a somebody comes with a lot of things. Okay, like a voltage, resistance, and the current, and like basically is this thing now. The information that you kind of like a somebody press is depend on multiple parameter. So it might take more than 1.3 second, because let me tell you one thing, if I fire the laser from here to moon, it would take almost like a 1.3 second to reach there. Why? Because the photon light is the light means like a photon particle. The photon particle is actually emit from laser light to moon. It takes 1.3 second, because yeah, but still it is kind of like a something too much. Sorry, like a also too less, because let me tell you one thing na, we also have kind of like a simply own our atmosphere. That atmosphere is kind of like a bending the light too. Okay, yeah. So probably is this thing that it might take more than 1.3 second, let's say 2 second. Okay, yeah. So this is what kind of like a something delay is actually happen when the distance is far away. Okay, yeah. So this is what kind of like a then example is this thing, if you put the light on the sun and you press the button, it will take 8 minute 20 second to turn on the light on the sun, which is kind of like a something very like a hard to imagine, but still you could imagine that you just kind of like a put the light on the sun, it will take almost like a 8 minute 20 second to kind of like a turn on the light. Okay, yeah. So what I'm trying to tell you is this thing that key usually when in the distance is too much, then it associate with the time. Okay, yeah, it associate with the time. Okay, means like that na ki usually is this thing that ki we actually seen entire galaxy from our eyes. When you look up in the sky is a ghost. What do you mean by ghost? Okay, yeah. Okay. So let me tell you one thing, that the light takes 8 minutes 20 second from moon to sun, sorry, earth to sun, right? Yeah. So basically if you are looking at the sun, you are looking at the past of 8 minute 20 second. Okay, yeah, you are not looking at sun at the present. No, you are looking at the sun at past. How much past? 8 minute 20 second behind. Okay, do you get it? So it's a kind of like a something ghost that you are seeing, a ghost star. Okay, and it's not kind of like a something just a sun. No, we are actually seeing the moon is also 1.3 second delay. So we are actually seeing the ghost moon. Okay, yeah. This distance is so tiny that we don't really assume as a ghost, right? Yeah. Now let me give you another example. Okay, yeah. So there is some sort of planet. Okay, yeah, which is like a take almost like a 50 light year away. Now, what's exactly light year? A light year means like that a light take kind of like a particular distance. Like basically, if the light, if I have a laser light, okay, yeah, and I fire the laser light here, okay, yeah, the photon emit from that laser light, and it went to the space, okay, yeah, which is kind of like a something very maximum speed. So when the light travel entire year, and that distance called light year. Okay, do you get it? That's why we call kind of like a something light year. Light means kind of like a something, and year means like it represent a distance and time. It's associated as a kind of like a something light year, which is kind of like a something really massive. Okay, yeah. So okay, it's not kind of like a something interesting part. I'm just trying to explain the light year. Okay, yeah, but understand light year. Okay, yeah. Now there is a planet which is actually 70 light years away from Earth. 70 light years means how much distance? Is like maybe that planet is in Andromeda galaxy. Okay, yeah. What's the Andromeda galaxy? Okay, yeah. So we are actually living in a Milky Way galaxy. Okay, yeah. And our neighboring galaxy is the Andromeda galaxy. Okay, yeah. So this is the planet is actually from Andromeda galaxy. Okay, yeah. So I am in that particular planet. Okay, I am in that particular planet. Let's talk as a planet X. Okay, yeah. So I am in that planet X, which is actually kind of like a simply 70 years, 70 light years away from the sun. Okay, yeah. So basically, today means today. Today's date is 7th of March 2025. Okay, yeah, this is the today's date. Okay, yeah. But if I am on that planet X, and if I'm looking at the Earth, what kind of like a Earth that I'm looking at? I might see Earth 50-year behind. What do you mean by 50-year behind? Like basically is this thing now? Okay, yeah. Whatever we do, whatever we action that we do, it emits the light. It takes time to reach to the particular place, and the time it required to light went from one place to another place, it takes time. So basically, if I am on that planet X, which is 70 light years away from the Earth, that means I am seeing the planet Earth 70 years back. That means, like, basically, for me, if I'm looking at Earth, for me, 70 years back means like that, ki, like a just like a today's 2025. So basically, just like a wait, let me calculate. I'm really fuck at literally calculation. So let me calculate. Okay, yeah. So 2025. Okay, wait. 2025 minus 70. So let me tell you one thing. Okay, yeah. So if I am on that planet, and if I'm looking at the Earth right now means like at this moment, I am seeing the planet, I'm seeing the Earth at 1955. Okay, yeah, means like that 3rd of March 3rd of March 1955. Like this is the date that I'm seeing right now if I was in that particular planet. Do you get it? That is called kind of like a something a ghost. Okay, do this kind of like a something fascination that it's like, yeah. Okay, yeah, it means that time is relative. What's a relative? A relative means like that कि time can change according to the distance. Okay, yeah. Like basically, if I'm gonna say today's date is the 3rd of March 2025, it's not associated with the entire universe. No. It might be kind of like a something different date at different planet. They might have kind of like a something 27 December 2031 over there. This is what kind of like a something time is actually happened. Okay, yeah. So time is kind of like a something somewhat relative. I am still not really sure regarding about the information that I'm telling you right now, but it's different. Okay, yeah. Like I was actually explaining too much and I was kind of like a somebody away from the question. Okay, yeah. The question says that ki how much kind of like a somebody intuition is actually help to finding the discoveries and stuff like that. Okay, yeah. So I'm talking about kind of like a somebody Einstein scientific discovery regarding about the space time. A space time is a kind of like a something word associated with the space and time. Okay, yeah. Like when you kind of like a something space is kind of like a something far away, then it represents time. Okay, so that is we called as a kind of like a something space time. Like basically, let me tell you one thing. Before the Einstein, we are actually thinking that today's date is the 3rd of March 2025. That means in the entire universe, today's date is 3rd of March 2025. But that is not. That is not. Like a Einstein, Einstein is actually explained the things regarding about time dilation, the space time. Okay, yeah. He kind of like talk about the gravity and how much gravity is actually influence the time, and time dilation is actually happened. So time is a kind of like a something relative. It's a kind relative means like that a kind of like a something a river. Okay, yeah. Like a river is actually flowing at very normal speed at kind of like a something very normal place, but when there is a kind of like a incline, the velocity of that water droplet is rapid and it going very rapidly. Okay, this is what kind of like a something happened with the time too. Okay, yeah. When the gravity is kind of like exerted too much, it kind of like a something slow down the time. Okay, yeah. It kind of like somebody slow down the time, and when the kind of like a somebody gravity is kind of like a non-existence, like a negligible, the like a time is actually going as kind of like a somebody constant speed. Okay, yeah. Like a basically is this thing now in day-to-day life we won't be able to experience this thing because our action are kind of like a somebody far too less or far too kind of like a things which is like a really common or really kind of like a something that are really non-negligible, that we don't really experience that stuff. But when you went to the space and when you're traveling distance for light years, then this might be kind of like a something very different thing is actually happened. Okay, yeah. So what I'm trying to tell you is this thing that when the scientist was kind of like a somebody try to figure it out regarding about the space time, he was also like at that time space time was not even invented. At that time they called as a kind of like a something time and space differently. I'm not really sure at that time they are actually calling something else. Okay, it's not, yeah. But it's just like that na ki if I wanted to kind of like a talk about some certain event in the galaxy, then for that particular event I really required some sort of information regarding about where should we supposed to meet. Like the example that I mentioned regarding about boy and girl, if the girl wants to meet that particular boy, a boy really required information regarding about space, information regarding about time. When you have both the things together in that particular situation, boy and girl meets together. Okay, yeah. So this is what kind of like a something information regarding about meeting. Okay, yeah. Same thing is actually happening in the galaxy. If I wanted to talk about some certain situation is actually happen on the galaxy, like a supernova galaxy, sorry, in there is supernova is actually happen, or like a multiple planets are kind of like a somebody bombarded at, like there are so many things actually happen on the galaxy. If I wanted to talk about some certain thing is actually happen on the galaxy, I need a space and time together. Okay, yeah. In that particular situation, if I have that particular thing, I would kind of like a something talk about that stuff. So scientists like Einstein always have kind of like a some intuition regarding about that. Like he was always kind of like a some figure it out that key there is kind of like a something miscalculation regarding about the information that we should supposed to be talk about regarding about space. Okay, yeah. and he wanted to have a kind of like a simply intuition regarding about space and time should supposed to be called as a together. It's not kind of like a something two different thing. Okay, yeah, in earth it's kind of like a simply two different thing, because in day-to-day life we really require like a really like if there is one thing is missing, another thing is also kind of like a simply, I don't know, yeah. But in the space and time is kind of like a simply associate so much together that we won't be able to kind of like a simply something really talk about just a space and just a time. No, this is kind of like a simply together. Space and times are kind of like a simply together. So that's why a scientist is actually invented, Einstein is actually invented the space time. Okay, yeah. If you still not really understand regarding about space time, okay, yeah, you actually seen a kind of like a some sort of graphics regarding about a kind of like a some square block, a kind of like a some grid around the earth, in kind of like a something in any kind of like a video you actually see that there is kind of like a some grid. Okay, white line grid. Okay, these are the white line grid are called as the space time. Okay, yeah, a kind of like a somebody a mesh, we call in scientific point of perspective is kind of like a simply a mesh, which kind of like a simply deflect regarding about the gravity and stuff like that. Okay, so regarding about the intuition, I'm talking about the intuition. Like Einstein is always kind of like a simply thinking about that ki space and time should supposed to be act together, and that intuition, he has always have intuition, and because of that intuition he invented a space time. Okay, yeah, and that intuition is kind of like a something help us to understand the physics much better. Okay, yeah, so this is what kind of like a something intuition is actually help us to discover things. Okay, yeah. It's you also kind of like something experience that thing too. Okay, it's not really hard to explain or understand, but it's very common. All right, yeah. Right now I should supposed to be in here. All right, so this is it, and thank you.